Hello, welcome back to the shed. Okay, watched the video last night. Revzilla. I'm subscribed to Revzilla. I don't mind saying that. Subscribe to Revzilla on YouTube, and I don't really watch them. In fact, this is probably one of the only videos that I've actually sat through and paid attention to. Not saying that I don't think that they know what they're on about. They seem like a decent bunch. They've got some very experienced panelists, racers, road racers, track racers. The video was called Loud Pipe Saves Lives and Other Motorcycle Myths. Well, I needed to comment on it because I think it's an unfair argument, the way that it was put across. And I think it's an unfair argument anyway, because I think people are missing the point with the question. And you could ask yourself, well, what qualifies me to have an opinion on this? Well, nothing really, other than I ride a motorcycle like anybody else, and I've had various motorcycles like other people. I have had various pipes on those motorcycles, some loud, some not so loud, some very loud. I am 41 years old. I have been in engineering. When I say in engineering was my first job at the age of 16. And engineering is everything that I've ever done. And when I say engineering, I mean mechanical engineering. So my degree's in engineering. I currently teach engineering, and I'm about to start a master's in engineering. What does all of that mean? Not a lot. It just means that I'm entitled to an opinion, I would think, based on knowledge, experience, and probably subject matter. So this video, I'm going to play it. I'll stop it at certain parts and just comment where I feel it's necessary to comment, because I honestly feel that some of the points aren't valid at all. Some of them are, but I think we're missing the point a little bit with it. And it almost seems like there is a hidden agenda here a little bit with the advent of electric vehicles, electric motorbikes, that now all of a sudden loud motorcycle exhausts are annoying, and that there's a gathering of people that have decided that enough's enough. So I think let's just play the video, go through it, and see what you think as well. And just giving you my opinion from the shed, and I'd be interested to see what you think as well. So, without further ado,
Spurgeon Dunbar, motorcycle myths. We're going to start with perhaps the most prevalent motorcycle, I don't know, not even like urban legend. What is it? A common refrain, you might say. Something that is often repeated in the motorcycling world. There are stickers made at Sturgis, all this stuff, right?
T-shirts.
Yeah. And it says, what does it say? Tell the people what it says.
It says that loud pipes save lives.
That they do. So,
right. Loud pipes save lives. Well, what do you mean by loud pipes save lives? So without taking it out of context, this is my point, this is my argument. Without taking it out of context, how does a motorcycle exhaust save somebody's life? In terms of, does it act like a helmet? If you fall off, does it protect your head? No. Does it protect your body? Is it a leather jacket? No. Is it a pair of boots? Will it protect your ankles? No, it won't. When you say save lives, whose life does it save? Are we talking about the life of the rider? Are we talking about the life of the person in the car or persons in the car? Or are we talking about the pedestrian on the side of the road? Because there's three people involved there: pedestrian, car, lorry, van, bus, whatever, and the motorcycle rider and or pillion as well. So when you say save lives, whose life?
Oh, so there's two ways to look at this, right? The loud pipes save lives crew. will say that having a motorcycle be loud is part of what helps a car understand that the motorcycle is nearby and will therefore be less likely to turn in front of them or turn into them or, merge over or whatever, right? So to a certain extent, it makes sense. Would you agree?
I think that...
So the first thing he's talking about there is he's talking about the motorcycle exhaust, and he's talking about a car pulling over, pulling out the way, merging out the way when the motorcycle comes up behind. I can guarantee you most of the people that you ask this question to are referring to someone in a car who can hear a motorcycle coming and therefore notice the motorcycle coming before it arrives and not pull out. When people say loud pipes save lives, they're not talking about a motorcycle coming up behind a car for a car to move out the way to let the motorcycle pass. Whose life is that saving? It's not saving the motorcycle's life because he doesn't need to get past. It's not the car isn't going to come into any danger by staying in front of the motorcycle. And if anything, having a loud motorcycle exhaust coming up behind a car is annoying because the car in front doesn't always, but most of the time, inadvertently pulls over to the left. You get chewed of all the shit from the verge, and they expect you to overtake or try and get you to overtake. And when some motorcycle riders don't want to overtake or they're less confident, try to overtake, and they cause an accident that way. So that argument there isn't what the loud pipes argument is about. It's not about when you come up behind a vehicle and a vehicle moving out the way. Nobody's in danger at that point.
People... Yes, I can understand people's argument for it, right? Like, I can understand people saying that if my motorcycle is louder, people will know that I'm there. But, I want to give you a brief little story.
Again, if my motorcycle was louder, people will know I am there. Car drivers can see you in the mirror when you come up behind them. It's not the exhaust that makes them know you're there. And we're not talking about being behind a car. The whole argument of motorcycle exhaust save lives, and I'm not saying that they do. I'm not saying that motorcycle pipes save lives. I'm just giving an alternative argument. When people put this across, they're talking about a car hearing a motorcycle coming before they can see it.
I was coming back from the KLR 650 launch, and I hit the area just north of like LA. So what is it? Is that the 15 that comes down into LA from Barstow?
Yes. Yep.
So I'm coming down the 15 into LA, and I'm lane splitting my way down because there was traffic coming into the city, and there's a guy in front of me on a Harley Davidson, and instead of just lane splitting, and like, credit to Los Angeles, man, like. I've seen the etiquette of drivers in LA improve so much over the past few years.
Yeah.
And like, when I'm lane splitting, people are moving out of the way. They're giving me space and I'm just cruising. This guy is literally rolling down through traffic at 15 miles an hour, clutch in, gunned on the throttle, just making an obnoxious racket because he doesn't want to actually know how to lane split and work his way through traffic. He just wants to be as obnoxious as possible to scare people and get them to like freak out and move over.
Again, nothing to do with saving lives. Nothing to do with... You're saying, in that argument, you're saying that the motorcycle exhaust is so loud and he's revving it so hard that traffic's moving out of his way. How's that saving lives? If they didn't move out of his way, he'd have to slow down. So that doesn't make sense. And this isn't the loud part. If you're going to swap lanes, swap lanes. Whether you've got a loud exhaust or not, it's totally irrelevant when you're behind a car. A car should never have to move out of the way because your exhaust is loud. You don't want a car to make a maneuver when you're behind a car. You don't want a car to pull over to the left-hand side of the road to encourage you to pass. You want the car to stay where it is, continue its current speed, not brake, not panic, and let you pass when it's safe for us to do so. This has got nothing to do with saving lives. The louder the pipe is totally irrelevant in this situation.
Right.
And it was so annoying. And I was embarrassed as a motorcyclist for him riding behind him because I was like, people are going to think that I'm riding with this and I'm not. Like that guy's on his own.
This man does not represent me.
No. So I think for me, like, that's just one example where this guy's probably like, well, loud pipes are making me heard and allowing me to be safe.
Right.
No.
And like, there's a better way to do that.
That's not an example of how when people talk about loud pipes save lives, that is not an example of what people think, of what people mean when they say about a loud pipe. That's not an example of it. If I was riding my bike down a road and my bike was really loud and all of the cars moved out my way on the motorway, on a bypass or whatever, that's not saving my life. And that's not saving anybody's life. That's my exhaust making people go, oh, there's a bike coming, I'll move out the way. It's not about saving lives in that situation. We're talking about junctions, blind bends.
So
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other podcast, right? The whole like motorcycle entitlement thing. Like that bugs me too, where in California, you're allowed to filter through lanes and you're allowed to move slightly faster than traffic moves if traffic is moving slowly. And
do that in the UK
I
too.
appreciate that. I like that. But the sort of like the beating your chest and being like, I deserve this, like get out of my way.
right.
Well, then
People like that.
people like that are idiots. There's nothing. I don't
the aggressive aspect of it. No.
Exactly. So the loud pipes. So but this guy, he didn't die in front of you. So did his loud pipes save his life? Perhaps.
I don't think so. I think
Mixed purposes here with the argument, you see. This is what frustrates me about this, because these guys have got airtime to discuss this. Right. Car drivers, if a car driver is sat at a junction and its windows are down, okay, and it has a look for a bike, pulls out, and a bike comes into the side of the car. Has that got anything to do with how loud the pipe on the bike was? That's the argument. First of all, the argument of loud pipes is that the pipe on the bike is the air and the reverberation and the noise is coming out the back. So the people who argue and say loud pipes don't save lives. Let me start again. The argument as to whether loud pipes save lives should be based upon cars pulling out of junctions. Because can a car hear a bike coming down the road? I would argue, if somebody is sat inside a car with the windows down and there's nothing to be heard and it's a nice quiet road, I would argue a bike with a loud exhaust can be heard coming. It can be heard. Let's assume the person in the car has no hearing impairments. Let's assume the radio isn't on so loud. Let's assume there's no radio on, the windows are down, it's a quiet road. Can you hear a motorbike coming? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely can hear a motorbike coming if the pipe is loud. Define loud. It's a stupid argument. But can you hear it? Can you hear the motorbike coming? Yes, you can hear the motorbike coming with a loud pipe. Does that save lives? If the car says, I'm not going to pull out because I can hear something coming, in that instance, it saved the life. If the car driver has the windows wound up and the stereo on, can they hear the motorbike coming? No, they can't. In that instance, they would look, they would pull out. Would they look again? Maybe not, whatever. But in that instance, if the car pulls out, they haven't heard the bike, there could be an accident. It doesn't matter in that instance how loud that exhaust is. If the windows are up and the radio is on, the car driver's never going to hear the bike. So that's what the argument should be. If the windows are down and there's no radio on, and it's a quiet road, you've got half a chance of being heard. Otherwise, you haven't. Okay? Now take a pedestrian on that same road. A pedestrian without headphones in, out for a walk, looks left, looks right, about to cross the road, can hear a loud motorbike pipe coming down the road. Would that stop that person crossing the road? Yes, it would. So therefore, has it saved a life? Potentially, yes. The argument is really that the pipes would work better if car drivers weren't so shut in. It would also work better if there was a law for the limit of noise allowed inside a vehicle. Let's say, for example, you've got a family in a car. You've got kids in the back, kids are crying, kids are screaming, parents in the front arguing. Have they got any chance at all? No. You can't stop that situation. That's a normal family situation. Well, not normal family situation, but it's a situation that occurs. But if you've got people in a car and they've got the radio turned up and it's really loud, they've got no chance of hearing cars, let alone motorbikes. And let's not forget, cars can have loud pipes too. Are you honestly telling me you can't hear a Subaru coming down the road at full bore when you've got your windows down and you haven't got the radio on? You telling me you can't hear that exhaust? Nonsense. Of course you can. Yes, the exhaust is at the back, and yes, it's louder when it goes past, but you can still hear it, right? So the argument should be about that, not about coming up behind a car and a car moving out of the way.
Okay, so here's the deal that I have with the loud pipes save lives. Now, this is one that we do have some science on. There was an article written. Lance Oliver did the article. There was a study done, and it was in...
It was in England, right?
It was in Europe. Yeah. So there's a video on Common Tread. The title of the article is "Video: Testing the Loud Pipe Save Lives Argument," and they found that loud pipes are ineffective at alerting drivers to the presence of motorcycles. And one of the biggest things that they say is that, because your exhaust is facing backwards, it doesn't do a lot to allow people in front of you or on your side to really know that you're there. And my favorite Lanceism, Lance is our editor over at Common Tread magazine, and he wrote, I'm just going to paraphrase this. If loud pipes, facing rearward on the motorcycle make you safer, what would make you even safer yet? Having a forward-facing horn blowing all the time that your motorcycle is running. That would attract more attention to you and be more effective at making you heard by drivers and cars ahead of you. Instead of spending money on custom exhausts, why not take that virtually free step of just short-circuiting your horn so it's always on? And he goes, I know why, because nobody thinks it's cool to go around with your horn blasting all the time. So, I mean, it's so true. Like
I'm confused why with that argument that why is it talking about letting cars know in front of you? Why is it that when you're riding down the road, you want the car in front of you to know you're there? When you're driving your car and you look in your mirror and you see another car coming up behind you, do you pull out the way to let that car come past? Or if you look in the mirror and see a car and think that's a Subaru, that's a loud exhaust, I'm going to move out the way so the car... You don't... So why is it with a bike that you would expect the car to move out the way? I don't expect a car to move out the way. If I come up behind a car, I don't expect that car to do anything different to what it does when another car comes up behind it. So, and as I've just said, if you're stood on the side of a road, there is absolutely no argument that you could not hear a motorbike coming. If a motorbike or a car has a loud exhaust, you can hear it coming. You can hear it coming without a doubt. If you're sat in your car and the windows are open and the radio's off, you can hear a loud exhaust coming. It's common sense.
If you were that concerned about safety and not just wanting your motorcycle to sound cool, you would just ride around with your thumb on the horn button and be like, I am the safest person out here right now.
It's not,
and that's the point of all.
It's not about safety. You people don't buy loud exhausts thinking, I'm going to buy a really loud exhaust because it's going to save my life. People buy loud exhausts or different tones of exhausts because they like the sound or the pitch or the tone of that exhaust under under load. So they like the sound, the pitch, the tone throughout the rev range. They like how it alters. They don't buy a pipe to go, that's going to save people's lives, including mine. Because ultimately, it's consumer choice.
All this business, right, is that sort of loud pipes making you safer as a motorcyclist is a veil that people hide behind to be like, no, that's why. But really,
I don't think motorcyclists think that. I don't think motorcyclists hide behind a veil of that my exhaust is going to save my life. I honestly don't think that's the situation. I think they would agree with there's half a chance I could be heard if a car's about to pull out in front of me or if somebody's about to step out in front of me. But again, whose life are we talking about? The person on the bike, the person crossing the road, or the person in the car? It's a positive thing that the bike is louder. Take an electric bike, right? Where are we going to go with electric bikes? Same argument. Electric bike. You sat in a car. The windows are down. You're at a junction. There's no radio on. It's a quiet road. You look left, you look right, you pull out. You can't hear the electric bike. So what chance now then have people got with electric motorcycles because you can't hear a thing? So are you then saying that a loud pipe would not save any more lives than electric motorcycles, than it being silent? So if you had the choice of your motorbike being completely silent, so no one can hear it anyway, or your motorcycle making a noise with a loud pipe, is there more chance that the person in the car about to pull out, or is there more chance that the person about to cross the road could hear you? Of course there is. I live in a rural area here. Tractors are everywhere. I can hear a tractor coming down the road. I can hear the tyres on the road because they're louder, and I can certainly hear the exhaust. If the tractor was an electric tractor, I'd have far less chance of hearing it. The argument isn't that buying a loud exhaust is for the purpose of saving lives, as if to say, well, it doesn't matter how loud it is because it saves people's lives. If it irritates you, I don't care, it saves people's lives. That's not the argument. You're always going to get the people that want the loudest possible exhaust, that want to rev it as high as they can through the quiet country villages. Nobody is arguing that those people aren't idiots, because they are. But you cannot say that a loud exhaust cannot be heard.
You just enjoy your motorcycle being super loud.
Sorry about that little technical difficulty there, but we're back on track. And the question that I have for you based on all of this, Zach, is that you are someone that has an Akrapovic exhaust on your lovely KTM 950 SM. Do you feel safer that you have that exhaust on your motorcycle, or do you just like the way it sings its song?
Yeah, it's definitely the latter. Here's the thing. If I thought my bike was ear-splittingly loud, I would change it. I wouldn't do that. I think that my bike is louder than stock, but like if I'm idling at a traffic light or something like that, I'm not annoying the people next to me. It's just sort of going thump, 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 thump. And like if I really hoss on it, it's a little bit louder than the stock exhaust, but it's not like, it's really not absurd. And I don't get on it in and around the neighborhood, like I trundle around, and I'm careful around people's houses and stuff. And then out in the canyons, I'll like let it sing a little bit, but like I try to be self-aware about it and not be ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I am someone that had the Akrapovic exhaust on my KTM as well, and it was not obnoxiously loud. What I will say is I had the intake done too, and I really like that song a little bit more. But I think so many people are putting exhaust on their bikes because they like the way it sounds. I do it, but I'm not sitting here with any pretense that I'm somehow a safer rider because of it. And I think that's what what gripes me with this whole argument, is that like they're not investing money in riding classes or rider training or schools or anything like that.
But that's what I've just said. And who's they? Who's this they people that are going around saying that my exhaust is so loud it saves my life? The argument isn't I genuinely don't think that people buy exhausts with the thought, this exhaust is so loud it's going to save my life. You've got more chance of being heard in certain situations than you have if your exhaust is quieter, or if you've got an electric vehicle, especially if you've got an electric vehicle. We won't even get into that because that's a whole other argument.
There are people that are just saying, well, I'm putting exhausts on my bike so that you have to hear me, you have to acknowledge me, and you have to get on the way, or get out of the way. It's taking all of the onus off of them as riders to become better at what they're doing, and saying, like, I want everyone else around me to take responsibility for me not having an accident. And that's what kind of gripes me with it.
Yeah, agreed. So again, I think we can probably close this one out. The article on Common Thread is called "Testing the Loud Pipe Save Lives Argument." There is an excellent video to support it, some actual research involved. And I think whether you agree or disagree with our take that the whole loud pipe save lives thing isn't really true, you should check it out, because I think you might learn a thing or two.
And it's probably the one out of all the ones we'll talk about today that is the most scientific, because there was a study done. Zach, why don't you take the second one?
There we go. I won't get into the next one because the next one they talk about tires. So there you go. The argument for me is straightforward. Car drivers are too shut in. So if they're too shut in, it's obvious. They're not going to hear you anyway. Your pipe is loud. And these guys are arguing a fair argument with that, saying that, there's a gang of people out there that assume that everybody must get out of their way because they've got a loud exhaust. We don't experience that, really. People don't want... What am I trying to say? Motorcyclists don't expect people to get out of your way because you've got a loud exhaust on your bike. They don't. If you've got a loud exhaust on your bike, in my opinion, you have more of a chance of being heard in certain circumstances. And also of other people avoiding you, or not crossing the road, or not pulling out in front of you. But a loud pipe primarily doesn't save lives just because of how loud it is, but it has got the potential to make people aware that you're there. Anyway, that's enough of that. Cheers for watching Shed Talk. I'll see you soon.